And here we are again, Hortitz. And so, welcome back for our fourth installment of analyzing the structure of a poem. So, we've already looked at lyric poetry and we looked specifically at an actual lyric poem. And yesterday we looked at the sonnet. And today I'm going to show you two new ones. First, the one we're going to talk about is still sometimes a lyric, but sometimes not. It can either be a lyric poem or not a lyric poem, but it is called the concrete poem. And that means that it looks a certain way on purpose. Sometimes the poet writes it to look like something, especially what its description of. So let's see if I can get our video to play that goes over a concrete poem called The Slow Train. Okay, so I'm going to stop it right now because I want you to see that if you were just pulling this out and it was on a sheet of paper, you would see the slow train. And then I'm a chuka train, I'm a train, I'm a chuka train, the sound that a chuka chuka that a train makes. So that is all this is. And even at the bottom on the track, it's got the chuka 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 chuka. So that way you know where the train's going. Okay. So I just wanted you to see that's one version of a concrete poem. And then another one that we have on the next slide that we're going to look at is in your textbook on page 589. You don't have to get your textbook out, but I would like you to hopefully have your source book out and write down, add underneath your notes on sonnets, your notes for a concrete poem, okay, which is also a type of lyric poem if it wants to be. They don't all have to be completely lyrical, but a concrete poem is, once again, it is meant to look a certain way. Like concrete, you can touch it. It's got a physical shape. Here, you've got, the title of this poem is The Seal by William J. Smith, and it is meant to mimic the body of the seal or even a wave. So this poem right here has a rhyme scheme of A, B, C, B every 4 lines. It contributes to the meaning by creating unity among each set of 4 lines. Those quatrains put together. It's one stanza shaped to mimic the seal's body, wiggle or movements, or even waves in the ocean. And it'll help you understand the playfulness of this overall poem. So I'm going to read it to you real quick and see if we're going to look if we see dives, zoom, darts, room, A, B, C, B. Eel, seaweed, sandy, feed. A, B, C, B. Okay? So that's what I want y'all to see, that it's still got that same rhyme scheme for all 28 lines. So I'm going to read this, and then we're going to get into our workbook on page 148. The Seal by William J. Smith on page 589 of your Prentice Hall literature book. See how he dives from the rocks with a zoom. See how he darts through his watery room, past crabs and eels and green seaweed, past fluffs of sandy minnow feed. See how he swims with a swerve and a twist, with a flip of a flipper, a flick of a wrist. Quicksilver, quick, softer than spray. Down he plunges and sweeps away. Before you can think, before you can utter words like dill pickle or apple butter, back up he swims past stingray and shark, out with a zoom, a whoop, a bark. Before you can say whatever you wish, he plops at your side with a mouthful of fish. End scene. Now, this poem has got a very playful nature, trying to make sure that because of the way that it's written with the swerve in it, it also, and with the tone that it takes and with some of our alliteration and our rhyme, it helps keep it light and flowy, just like the seal would be in water. And this is an example of a concrete poem. And it is still written with that rhyme scheme. This quatrain has A, B, C, B. It's got that 1, 2, 3, 2 pattern. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get into our workbook on page 148. All right. So once again, like always, if I'm getting ahead of you, please pause me. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I know some of you like to try to do that, but that's okay. Pause away, play catch up. And the very first thing we're going to do at the top of our page is we are going to write analyzing the structure of a poem. And underneath analyzing, we're going to write that it means to break apart or break down. Then we're going to add to that when I say structure, I mean how the poem is built. How is it put together? One of the easiest ways to see how these bricks are put together is to see if it's free verse, which means it does not rhyme, or that it has a rhyme scheme pattern, which helps unify everything. Okay? And that is what I'm looking for. I want to know how it's built. Is it free verse? Does it have a rhyme scheme? And then from there, I want to know, is it broken into stanzas? Is it one stanza? I want to know after that, is it a concrete poem? Is it we're going to get into an ode in a minute. Is it a sonnet? So the first thing you always look at, though, is it free verse or does it have a rhyme scheme? Anyway, and so we're going to go look, and also I'm going to tell you what a poem is again, because it's not like any other part of literature. It is in the realm of literature, but it does not have chapters or paragraphs. Instead, it has lines and stanzas. And we always number those lines by fives, and then we chunk our stanzas. Okay. So in this one, though, we're going to be circling our genre ode. And if you look over here, under our study buddy, he tells us that an ode is a type of lyric poem that celebrates something. One of the most famous odes I know is from John Keats, and it is Ode of a Grecian Urn. So maybe we'll have time one day to take a look at that. But it's celebrating a Grecian urn. Well, this one is an ode, and it is doing, let's see if I can get my pointer to work again. There we go. This version is still a lyric poem, but it doesn't have to rhyme. I know normally we look at lyric poems and we want them to rhyme, but in this case, this ode isn't rhyming. I'm going to let you know right now, okay? But it does celebrate something. So in my next step, we're going to make sure that I remember that we've got to box the title. We want to get my paragraphs, my stanzas. I did it too. But we're going to zoom in just a second, and we'll come back to all that. One of the things I want you to make sure you remember is we're looking at how is the poem organized. Does it have a rhyme scheme, or is it free verse? And then by the time we get through with this, you want to be able to tell me the poet, the speaker, and the tone. Okay? So the poet is Gary Soto. I can see his name right there. All right. So let's zoom in on this. So, ode to family photographs. We're going to box our title. After we box our title, we're going to number our lines. Well, our lines are already numbered. So now we got to number our stanzas. So we got to go through 1, 2, 3. I skipped one. Bad, Brooke. Let's see. This is also a stanza. There we go. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ooh. So we want to make sure we number these. We have 8 stanzas. Now we want to make sure we're checking for our structure first to see if it's built with rhyme scheme, with a pattern rhyme, or is it free verse? So we got to go make sure we underline all of the last words of our external word for each line. So let's go down. I have feet, pictures, arm, off, gate, closed, half closed, sister, shoulder, bumper, beak, rock, face, looked, blurry, merry-go-round, camera, tail, hard, mouth. Now, the very beginning, I have feet and feet repeat, and we want to make sure we remember that repetition for a lyric poem is important. But other than that, there is no other rhyme. This entire poem is completely done in free verse. Okay? So I want you to make sure that you take the time. If we come over here and look at our close reading, it says the speaker mentions mistakes in some photos. Underline instances of all the things that are wrong with these photos. Another thing I want you to think about as you're reading this is the repetition of the word this, or the phrase this, is. Anytime, have you ever been showing someone your pictures and you just sit down and go, oh, this is this, or this is that, or oh, this is the time we went to this is so and so in my picture? That think about it from that perspective as you read this ode to family photos, which if an ode means to celebrate, that means my entire thing is an ode. I'm celebrating my family's pictures. And remember, Gary Soto wrote this in a time before cell phones and snapping pictures. So you actually had to have a physical picture in your hand to look at. And you couldn't delete them when they were messed up. You got the picture. Okay. So I'm going to give you time to read this. And when you're done, you can continue on because I'm not going to read it to you because this is our guided practice where you're supposed to read it on your own. So take your time, read it, pause me, whatever you got to do. And when you get through, pick up and I'll be on the next slide.